The call came on a Thursday morning while I was sanding a table leg in my workshop. The detective's voice was careful, professional. "Mr. Parker, we need you to come to the station. It's about your daughter." I set down my tools, confused. "Detective, I think there's been a mistake. I only have one child, my son Ethan. I don't have a daughter." Silence stretched across the line. "Then, Mr. Parker, please come to the station, or we can send officers to bring you. This can't wait." 20 minutes later, when I walked into that gray conference room at the police station, the detective slid something across the table. What I saw left me reeling. "Thank you for being here and giving this story your time. Before we continue, I'd love to know who's listening. Leave a comment with your city or country so we can see how far this story reaches." Just a quick note, as we begin, some details in this narrative have been dramatized for storytelling and educational purposes. Names and settings are fictional, but the lesson at the heart of this story is real, lived, and earned. Rain hammered against my workshop windows that Thursday morning in late October. I was sanding the mahogany table leg, the same work I'd done for 30 years in this small shop near Willie Street. At 56, my hands knew the rhythm, smooth strokes, even pressure, the scent of sawdust mixing with old coffee from my forgotten mug. The knock came hard and official. I set down the sandpaper, already moving toward the door. Through the rain-streaked glass, I saw two figures in dark uniforms. Police. My stomach dropped. "Is it Ethan?" The words came out before I'd even opened the door fully. "My son, is he okay?" The detective in front was mid-40s, graying at the temples, tired eyes. "Mr. Parker. Matthew Parker." "Yes. Is my son—" "Your son is fine, sir. I'm Detective Mark Reynolds, Madison Police." He showed his badge. "May we come in?" "This is about your daughter." I stared at him. "I don't have a daughter. I have one son, just Ethan." Reynolds exchanged a glance with the female officer beside him. "Mr. Parker, perhaps we should sit down." "I'm fine standing. You said daughter. I don't have one." Reynolds pulled a photograph from his jacket and held it up. The world tilted. The girl in the photo was early 20s. Dark hair, serious expression. But her face, that face, was Ethan's face. The same gray eyes, the same straight nose, the same determined jaw. Even the slight cleft in her chin matched perfectly. "Her name is Raina Parker," Reynolds said quietly. 22 years old, reported missing 3 days ago. We found your name in her apartment, along with adoption records." "Adoption?" The word felt foreign. "Records indicate she was born October 15th, 2002. Twin birth. The other child listed is Ethan." My hand gripped the workbench. "He was born that day, but there was only him. My wife told me our daughter died hours after birth. The records show a female infant was placed for adoption 3 days after birth," the female officer said gently. "Adopted by James and Linda Cooper of Nebraska." 22 years! My throat was tight. "I had a daughter for 22 years and didn't know." Reynolds' voice remained professional. "Mr. Parker." Raina's apartment showed signs of a struggle. Her phone and laptop are missing. We found a journal documenting her search for her biological family. The last entry mentions meeting someone named Savannah Sheffield 3 days ago. The name hit me like a physical blow. "Savannah Bradford," I said. "My ex-wife. She left when Ethan was 3 months old. I haven't seen her in 22 years. Savannah Sheffield is the name she's using now," Reynolds said. "She's married to Douglas Harrington. They live here in Madison. Mr. Parker, we believe Raina confronted her birth mother, and shortly after, she disappeared." The pieces fell into place, sharp and ugly. Reynolds' voice turned grave. "Mr. Parker, we need you to come to the station. There's evidence that suggests your daughter didn't go missing by accident. Someone took her." I looked down at the table leg in my hand, half-finished, abandoned. My normal life had just ended. The careful routine I'd built over decades had shattered like dropped glass. I set down my tools and reached for my jacket. The rain drummed harder against the roof. "Let me lock up," I said. I followed the detectives out into the rain, leaving everything behind. Somewhere out there was a daughter I'd mourned for 22 years, a daughter who was alive and in danger. 20 minutes later, I sat in a gray conference room at Madison Police Department downtown waiting for Ethan to arrive. Reynolds had given me time to call my son to prepare him for news that would shatter his world too. But how do you prepare someone to learn they had a sister they never knew existed? A twin. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The door opened. Ethan came in fast, backpack over one shoulder, his face tight with worry. Dad, what's going on? You said police station. He stopped when he saw Reynolds, then looked at me, trying to read the situation. Sit down, Ethan, I said quietly. I'd rather stand. What happened? Reynolds pulled out the photograph. Do you recognize this person? Ethan took it. I watched his face change confusion, then shock. He touched his own cheek as if checking it was real. His voice broke. That's like looking in a mirror. Who is this? Her name is Raina Parker, I said. She's 22, your twin sister. Ethan grabbed the back of a chair. Twin sister I don't have. He stared at the photo again, unable to deny the resemblance. Same eyes, same face. Ow! Your mother told me our daughter died at birth. She lied. She gave Raina up for adoption. A couple in Nebraska raised her. Mom knew. Ethan's voice was hollow. She knew I had a sister. Reynolds cleared his throat. There's more. Raina was reported missing 3 days ago. Her apartment near campus showed signs of a struggle. Phone and laptop missing. He opened a file. We found her journal. She'd discovered she was adopted and was searching for her biological family. This entry is from 3 weeks ago. He read, Found her. Birth mother, alive. Savannah Bradford, using name Savannah Sheffield. She's in Madison. Ethan went pale. Savannah, the mother who'd abandoned him. Your birth mother is married to Douglas Harrington, Reynolds continued. He runs Harrington Financial Consulting. They've been investigated for fraud multiple times. They target wealthy, vulnerable people, widowers, divorcees. 8 confirmed victims over 15 years. Con artists, Ethan said flatly. Reynolds nodded. We found a private investigator's files that Raina commissioned, and this. He played a brief audio clip. Street noise, then Raina's voice. I just want to understand why. The recording cut off abruptly. Ethan gripped the table. That's her. My sister. We believe something went wrong when Raina confronted Savannah 3 days ago, Reynolds said. We're pursuing every lead, but I need you both to stay out of this investigation. Stay out. I stood up. My daughter has been missing for 3 days. Someone took her. Reynolds leaned forward. Mr. Parker let us handle this. If you interfere, you could compromise. Then investigate faster, detective. My voice was hard. My daughter's out there. I'm not sitting here doing nothing. Outside the station, under clouds, threatening rain, Ethan grabbed my arm. His hand shook. I had a sister, he said, voice breaking. All this time I had a twin, and I never knew. And now someone... I put my hand on his shoulder. We're going to find her, Ethan. We start now. That evening, after Ethan and I had spent hours in stunned silence at my house, processing the impossible truth, I knew I needed help. Not police help, I needed someone I could trust absolutely. I drove through rain-slicked Madison streets to the one place where I'd always been able to think clearly, Murphy's Pub on State Street, where my oldest friend poured drinks and kept secrets. Patrick Murphy stood behind the oak bar I'd built for him 20 years ago. At 58, his silver hair caught the warm light as he laughed with a customer. When his eyes found mine across the room, his smile died instantly. He said something to Alex, his bartender, who nodded and started ushering customers out. Patrick flipped the sign to close and locked the door. Within minutes, the pub was empty. Talk to me, brother, Patrick said, pulling me into a tight hug. His eyes were worried when he looked at Ethan. What happened? I told him everything. The police visit the photo of a daughter I didn't know existed, Savannah, alive and using a false name, Douglas. Harrington's con operation, Raina, missing 3 days. Ethan added details, his voice shaking when he described seeing his twin's face. Patrick's jaw worked as he listened. I never trusted that woman. Not at your wedding, not ever. I should have said something 22 years ago. You couldn't have known. I should have trusted my instincts. His voice was fierce. What do you need? The police are too slow, I said. I need to act now, but I can't do this alone. Patrick poured 3 whiskeys, slid them across the counter. You're not alone. What's the play? I explained Douglas and Savannah's pattern. Wealthy targets vulnerable people, especially widowers. 8 victims over 15 years. I fit that profile, Patrick said quietly. That's why I'm here. You're not just a bartender anymore. 5 pubs across Wisconsin now. Sullivan Holdings. And Mary, his voice caught, 5 years gone this March. The grief won't be acting. Savannah knew you as a broke bartender, I said. She doesn't know R.G. Murphy, who owns half of State Street. Patrick nodded once. When do we start? Tomorrow. You get close, I coordinate from outside. Ethan suddenly gasped, his hand flying to his chest. He gripped the bar face, going pale. Ethan, I moved toward him. I felt something. His voice was uncertain, like pressure on my chest. Someone pushing. Am I going crazy? Patrick and I exchanged glances. Twin connections, unexplained bonds between siblings. What do you feel? I asked quietly. It's still there. Ethan pressed his sternum. Not pain, just presence. Dad, do you think it's her? Is Raina trying to reach me? Patrick clasped my shoulder. I should have stopped your wedding 22 years ago. I won't fail you again. We're getting Raina back, and we're putting these people away forever. Ethan touched his chest again, wonder and fear mixing on his face. The feeling won't go away. Maybe it's not crazy, I said, looking at my son. Maybe your sister knows we're coming. Over the next 2 days, my workshop transformed into something I'd never imagined, an investigation headquarters. Ethan brought his laptop and hacking skills I hadn't known he possessed. Patrick provided resources. I coordinated everything, connecting pieces of evidence like I connected joints, in furniture, carefully, methodically searching for the pattern that would hold. By Friday morning, computers and documents covered every surface. Maps of Madison hung on the walls, the scent of sawdust mixed with coffee and electronics. Ethan worked with intense focus, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he accessed Carol Jensen's cloud storage, using the PI's email from Raina's contacts. Got it, he said. Dad Jensen documented everything. 8 confirmed victims over 15 years. The pattern was clear. Savannah identified targets through grief groups and charity events, wealthy, lonely people. Douglas invested their money into accounts that vanished offshore. Look, Ethan said, pulling up a file. Douglas's former business partner died in a car accident 7 years ago, 2 weeks before he was scheduled to testify. Convenient, Patrick muttered. Too convenient. Current target, I asked. Howard Campbell, 62 widower, $850,000 in savings. He's met with Douglas twice. Notation says, finalization in 5 days. 5 days. Another life about to be ruined. Ethan cracked Raina's email. October 15th, the twins' birth date. Her last message to Jensen sent 4 days ago, meeting her tomorrow. We'll record everything. This ends now. Jensen's response never came. She was out of state, unreachable. Property records, Patrick said, pointing to the screen. Douglas owns a warehouse on East Washington. Shell company, but it traces back to him. Ethan zoomed in. It has a basement. We looked at each other, a place to keep someone hidden. What if she's there? Ethan whispered. What if Raina's been there this whole time? Saturday night arrived cold and dark. The warehouse district was abandoned buildings and broken streetlights. Patrick stayed in his car, a block away, engine running. Ethan and I approached on foot. The warehouse loomed ahead, windows dead. But I noticed immediately new lock on the side door, shiny against rusted metal. Inside the main floor was debris and old equipment. Our flashlights cut through darkness. Ethan stopped suddenly, hand to his chest. She was here. His voice was certain. I can feel it. She's scared. She's cold. We found the basement entrance behind old shelving. A new padlock secured the door. I pulled out my tools to force it open. Headlights swept the building exterior. Down, I hissed, pulling Ethan behind machinery. A man entered, checked the area with a flashlight, then left after 5 minutes. Patrick's voice crackled through my radio. Security patrol, regular checks. We waited until he was gone. We can't break in, I said, fighting every instinct. If we do, they'll know. They might move her. Or worse, Patrick added. Ethan's face showed anguish. But she's right there. I know. I gripped his shoulder. But if we spook them now, we lose our chance. We make Douglas think he's winning, force him to reveal where she is. Back in Patrick's car, Ethan's certainty remained. She's in that basement. I believe you, I said. The twin connection was real. But we can't tip our hand. My phone buzzed. Reynolds James Cooper's brake lines were cut 6 years ago. Douglas was questioned, never charged. Don't become his next problem. I showed them the message. These people eliminated threats permanently. We have 4 days until Douglas takes Howard Campbell's money, I said. Patrick, you start tomorrow. On Friday morning, Patrick Murphy walked into the grief support group at First Methodist Church, wearing an expensive suit that transformed him from pub owner to businessman. I sat in my car across the street, listening through the wire beneath his collar. Inside that church, Savannah Bradford was hunting. Patrick was about to become her prey. His voice came through steady as he introduced himself. R.G. Murphy, My wife Mary passed 5 years ago. Cancer. Some days it feels like yesterday. The grief was real. That part wasn't acting. He mentioned recent business changes, sold 3 restaurant locations, consolidated operations. I have more money than I know what to do with. It makes me feel guilty, like I'm moving on when Mary's still perfect. During coffee break, I watched through the window as a woman approached Patrick. Savannah. Even after 22 years, I recognized her. Refined, practiced, sympathetic. Through the wire, her voice came warm and false. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I lost my husband 2 years ago. That emptiness you described, I understand completely. They exchanged numbers before the session ended. Saturday afternoon, they met at a coffee shop on State Street. I watched from across the street as Savannah leaned forward, engaged. My financial advisor helped me after Richard died, she said. Douglas Harrington. Without his guidance, I'd have been lost. Patrick hesitated, perfect uncertainty. I could use guidance. I'm sitting on $1.2 million and don't know the first thing about investing. Even from across the street, I saw the flash in her eyes. Big Mark. Let me introduce you to Douglas, she said quickly. He specializes in people exactly like us. Sunday afternoon, I watched from my car as Patrick entered Harrington Financial Consulting on Capitol Square. Ethan monitored from the van behind me, recording everything through Patrick's wire and hidden camera. Douglas Harrington's voice came through smooth and professional. At 54, silver-haired and expensive-suited, he projected trustworthiness. Mr. Murphy, I protect wealth for people in transition. Sarah's portfolio has grown significantly under my guidance. Comfortable returns, minimal risk. He showed charts and projections Ethan would later confirm, all fabricated. Patrick played cautious and interested. This seems too good to be true, Mr. Harrington. I understand skepticism. That's wise. Douglas smiled. Take time to consider. As Patrick left, Savannah caught him in the lobby. Douglas is the real deal, RG. He saved me. Her voice dropped. We're hosting a charity gala Tuesday evening at Monona Terrace. Come see how he's changed lives. I'd like that, Patrick said. That evening we gathered in Murphy's back room, reviewing recordings. She's exceptional, Patrick said quietly. I almost believed the tears. Ethan's fingers flew across his laptop. Every document Douglas showed is fabricated. None of these accounts exist. Tuesday night at the gala, I said. Public venue witnesses, they can't disappear. My phone rang. Reynolds. Matthew, we arrested Douglas's associate Danny Price an hour ago. He's got history with Harrington enforcement work. We're questioning him about Raina. He might crack. I looked at Patrick and Ethan. 3 days until the gala. Reynolds works his angle, we work ours. Between both, we'll find her. But I felt the weight of those 72 hours. 3 days to save my daughter. 3 days before Douglas destroyed another life. The clock was ticking. Monday morning arrived with cold rain and only 36 hours left before the gala. One obsessive thought had kept me awake all night. Raina had told Carol Jensen she would record her confrontation with Savannah. The police never found her phone. Douglas's people must have taken it. But my daughter was careful. If she planned to record something that dangerous, she would have hidden a backup. That morning, I returned to her apartment near the UW-Madison campus, determined to think like her. Where would I hide something I absolutely couldn't lose? The small studio felt haunted by her absence. Ethan searched digital spaces again, cloud drives, backup emails, while I searched the physical world, thinking like a craftsman. Hidden compartments. False bottoms. I looked at Raina's belongings with new eyes, meeting my daughter through what she had left behind. Nursing textbooks stacked neatly. She had wanted to help people. Photos of the Coopers on her nightstand. The parents who had loved her. A worn stuffed bear lay on her bed, clearly a childhood comfort. I picked it up and noticed a small opening in the seam. Inside was a stitched name tag in Linda Cooper's handwriting, Mr. Button's Love, Mom. Within the opening, wrapped in plastic, was a tiny memory card. Ethan, I said quietly, I found it. At Murphy's pub in the private room behind the bar, Ethan connected the card to his laptop. There was one audio file dated 4 days before Raina disappeared. My hands shook as he pressed play. Street noise came first, then Raina's voice, nervous but steady. I wanted to meet you, to understand why you gave me away. Savannah sounded cold and irritated. You want the truth? You were unplanned. A complication I didn't need. Raina pushed on. You told my father I was gone. He believed that his whole life. It was easier, Savannah replied casually. Douglas said we could only manage one child if we wanted the life we deserved. I chose Ethan. I gave you to the Coopers. Best decision I ever made for me. And the people you're hurting. Now, Raina demanded. Howard Campbell and the others. They're marks. That's business. It's criminal. I have evidence. I'm going to the police. There was a long pause. When Savannah spoke again, her voice was colder. No, you're not. Douglas, we have a problem. She knows everything. Douglas Harrington's voice followed calm and terrifying. Then we handle it the way we handled James Cooper. Danny, take her to the East Washington property. Basement storage. Keep her comfortable until the Campbell deal closes. There were sounds of struggle. Raina cried out. Then the recording ended. Silence filled the room. I shook, tears falling freely. Ethan looked sick with horror. Patrick stood rigid by the door, fury barely contained. I called Reynolds. I have everything. Confessions to kidnapping, conspiracy, and James Cooper's death. That's enough for warrants, he said. We move now. No, I replied. Tomorrow night at the gala. Public confrontation. They panic, reveal her location, and you arrest them. Reynolds hesitated. 24 hours. After that, I'm done waiting. Ethan grabbed my arm. Dad, I feel it again, stronger. Raina knows something's happening. There's water. She hears pipes. Patrick's phone rang. Savannah's cheerful voice filled the room, inviting us to the gala and an exclusive investment. Patrick met my eyes, rage burning. We'll be there. Tomorrow night, 24 hours. Then we end them for good. Tuesday evening arrived cold and clear. The ballroom at Monona Terrace glowed beneath crystal chandeliers, light scattering over champagne and silk. Beyond the glass walls, Lake Monona lay black and still under November stars. 200 of Madison's elite mingled beneath Frank Lloyd Wright's curves, believing they attended Douglas Harrington's annual charity gala. None of them knew they were about to watch two predators step into a trap. I adjusted the borrowed tie, expensive and wrong. Patrick stood beside me in a tailored suit, playing the successful investor. One final time. Across the room, Ethan blended into the crowd, recording gear hidden in his jacket. Detective Reynolds and his officers had sealed every exit an hour earlier. Tonight ended this. There she is, Patrick said softly, his arm tightening. Savannah crossed the room, an emerald silk smile, flawless confidence practiced. She did not recognize me. 22 years had reshaped us both, her surgically refined me worn by sawdust and grief. Matthew Parker did not belong in ballrooms. R.G., I'm so glad you came, she said, kissing Patrick's cheek, her hand lingering. I wasn't sure you would. Wouldn't miss it, Sarah Patrick replied smoothly. I brought my attorney and old friend. Matthew. She glanced at me, assessed, dismissed. Nice to meet you. I nodded, keeping my face empty as she turned back. My fists clenched behind my back. The woman who stole my daughter stood 3 feet away, smiling. Douglas Harrington joined her silver-haired, authoritative, the image of philanthropy. R.G., wonderful to see you. Sarah tells me you've decided. I have, Patrick said, shaking his hand. I'm ready to move forward. 1,200,000? Douglas smiled, pleased. Excellent. Let's step into the office and finalize everything. Actually, Patrick said, voice hardening, I want to do this publicly. He took the microphone from the stage. Music stopped. Conversations fell silent. Faces turned. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Patrick announced. I want to thank Douglas Harrington and Sarah Mitchell for their guidance these past days. Savannah beamed. Douglas's smile tightened. They showed me impressive opportunities, Patrick continued. But before I sign anything, I must clarify something. The room tensed. My name is Robert Gregory Murphy, he said. But I'm not the widower you believe. I'm not your target. I'm his ally. I stepped forward, removing my glasses. My name is Matthew Parker. Recognition drained Savannah's color. Matthew, 22 years ago, I said evenly, I married Savannah Bradford. She told me our daughter died at birth. That was a lie. Douglas edged toward an exit. Officers closed in. You took our daughter, Raina, I continued. You gave her to strangers and told me she was dead. When she found you and she learned who you were, you took her again. This is ridiculous. Douglas snapped. Security. There's no security coming, Patrick replied. Only police and evidence. Whispers surged as guests retreated, forming a circle. I signaled Ethan. Ladies and gentlemen, I said you will hear my daughter's voice. Her last conversation before Douglas Harrington and Savannah Bradford erased her. Ethan raised the speaker. Savannah lunged. An officer restrained her. The crowd held its breath, disbelief and horror, mixing in the chandelier's glare. Phones appeared. Whispers turned to stunned silence, and the orchestra stood frozen. Douglas's confidence collapsed into panic. Savannah's composure shattered completely, mascara streaking as years of deception caught up to her. Police radios crackled softly, the only sound in a room that finally understood the truth. No one moved, spoke, or looked away as consequences arrived at last, together now. "No," she pleaded. "Please." The recording began. "Before we continue to the moment that changed everything, I need to see if you're still with me. If you want to know what Raina's recording revealed about Savannah and Douglas, type truth in the comments. One thing to note: what you're about to hear includes some dramatized elements for storytelling. If you'd prefer not to continue, now's your chance to step away." Raina's voice filled the ballroom, amplified through the sound system, clear and brave despite the tremor of fear beneath. Every word landed like a physical blow. Every cold response from Savannah, every threatening instruction from Douglas, broadcast to Madison's elite, without filter, without mercy. Why, Raina's recorded voice asked, "Why did you give me away?" Savannah's response came flat, matter of fact. "We wanted the boy, Ethan. You were excess. The Coopers were desperate for a child. It was convenient." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I watched faces twist with shock and disgust as my daughter's pain played out before 200 witnesses. Then Douglas's voice cut in sharp and commanding. "Handle it like we did James Cooper. Take her to East Washington. Storage room in the basement. Keep her there until we finish with Campbell." Sounds of struggle. Raina's voice rising, then cutting off abruptly. Silence. Howard Campbell stood frozen near the bar, his face draining of color as he understood he was next. Savannah stared at the speaker, watching her carefully constructed life shatter in real time. "This isn't... You don't understand. You chose." My voice cut through her excuses like a blade. 22 years ago and 3 days ago, you chose." Her mask finally cracked completely. "She's fine. We didn't hurt her. She's alive." Douglas hissed from where officers held him. "Shut up!" But it was too late. Savannah was unraveling desperation, overtaking calculation. The warehouse, East Washington Avenue storage room in the basement back corner. "She's there, she's safe. We were just keeping her quiet until..." Douglas lunged toward her, rage twisting his features. "You stupid!" 2 officers intercepted him, forcing him back with practiced efficiency. Detective Reynolds stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos with calm authority. "Savannah Bradford, Douglas Harrington, you're under arrest." He nodded to his officers. "Kidnapping, conspiracy to commit fraud, accessory in the death of James Cooper, and 8 counts of wire fraud." Steel handcuffs clicked shut around both their wrists. Douglas's arrogance finally fractured. "This is entrapment. My lawyer will destroy you." Patrick's voice carried across the silent ballroom. "Your lawyer, Alan Richards, is cooperating with prosecutors, Douglas. He's given up everything." The last remnants of Douglas's smugness shattered like glass. They led Savannah past me toward the exit. The officers paused, allowing her one moment. She looked up at me, mascara streaking her perfect face. "I'm sorry," her voice cracked. "I know you won't believe me, but I'm sorry." I held her gaze steady and cold. "You're right, I don't. And Raina won't either when she knows what you are." The officers guided them both through the crowd. Guests parted silently, watching Madison's most respected philanthropist and his elegant partner led away in handcuffs. Howard Campbell approached me, his hand trembling as he extended it. "They almost got me. Thank you." I shook his hand, barely registering the gesture. Around us, a few guests began to applaud. Others simply stared, processing what they'd witnessed. Reynolds touched my shoulder. "We're sending units to the warehouse now. East Washington Avenue basement storage back corner, just like she said." My phone buzzed an unknown number. I answered immediately. "Dad!" Ethan's voice broke with emotion, using Reynolds' phone from the scene. "They found her. She's alive. Raina's alive and asking for you." The ballroom faded, the crowd, the chandeliers, Douglas and Savannah being led away. None of it mattered anymore. After 22 years of believing my daughter was dead, after 3 days of desperate searching, I was about to meet her. "I'm coming," I said, my voice thick. "Tell her I'm coming right now." I don't remember leaving Monona Terrace or climbing into Patrick's car. All I remember is hope pounding in my chest, and Ethan's words echoing. "She's alive. She's asking for you." 22 years I'd mourned a daughter I thought was dead. Now racing through November night toward East Washington Avenue, I was minutes from meeting her. Police cars lined the warehouse lights, painting darkness blue and red. Patrick and I descended concrete stairs into the basement. Dim emergency lighting led us to the storage room in the back corner door standing open. Inside, a thin mattress on concrete, empty water bottles, a single blanket, and Raina sitting up thin and pale but conscious. Ethan knelt beside her, holding her hand. She looked up as I appeared. Recognition flashed instantly across her face, my features simply an older version of Ethan's. "You're my father." Her voice came hoarse but certain. "I felt you. These past days I felt someone searching." Ethan's grip tightened on her hand. "I felt you too. The cold. The water pipes. You were trying to tell me where you were." I knelt slowly. "I didn't know you existed. If I had, I would have found you 22 years ago." Her eyes, my eyes, Ethan's eyes held mine steadily. "You found me now. That's what matters." I reached for her hand, careful, afraid she might break. "You're safe. You're safe now, Raina." At UW Hospital, Dr. Elizabeth Morgan examined Raina quietly. Dehydrated, some bruising, psychological trauma that would take time, but physically stable. She would recover. Raina's fingers curled around mine. "Did the recording work? Did you stop them?" "You stopped them. You saved Howard Campbell and anyone else they might have hurt. You were incredibly brave." Dawn crept through the window, turning sky from black to gold. Raina's eyes drifted closed, exhaustion claiming her. She slept between Ethan and me, breathing even and peaceful. Patrick watched from the doorway, mission complete. 6 months later, April 2025. Spring light filled the workshop warm and clean, sawdust mixed with coffee from Patrick's thermos. 3 workbenches now occupied the space where there had once been one. I stood behind Raina, guiding her hands as she sanded a table leg, the same motion I taught for 30 years. Her movements were awkward, but improving. "Apply even pressure," I reminded her. "Let the grain guide you." Across the workshop, Ethan looked up from his project. "She's just showing off because Uncle Patrick's watching." Patrick laughed. "She's smart. Always perform better with an audience." Raina stuck her tongue out at her brother, and I smiled at how normal it felt, sibling-teasing family. Patrick sipped coffee. "Trial ended last month. Both convicted on all charges. Long sentences." I nodded. 8 victims getting restitution. From the seized offshore accounts, Howard Campbell started a scholarship fund too. Named it after James Cooper. James would have liked that. Raina set down the sandpaper. "I still have nightmares sometimes. About the basement." I squeezed her shoulder. "Dr. Morgan says healing isn't a straight line. It takes time." Ethan crossed to his sister, bumping her shoulder. "Twin connection's real, though. Sometimes I know you're having a bad day before you say anything." She bumped him back harder. "That's just you being nosy." All 3 of us laughed, real laughter, easy laughter, the kind that comes from family. The kind I'd waited 22 years to hear. Raina held up the sanded wood. "Is this good, Dad?" I examined it carefully, the way my father had taught me decades ago. Grain smooth, pressure even, technique perfect. "Perfect. You have a natural gift." Her smile, both hers and Ethan's, both new and achingly familiar, lit her face. "Guess it's genetic." Ethan snorted. "Or maybe you're showing off for Uncle Patrick." Patrick's laugh boomed. "She's smart." We all laughed together, the sound filling the workshop like music. Outside, spring sunshine warmed Madison's streets, melting November's cold. Inside, surrounded by sawdust and my children's voices, I found what I'd thought lost forever. I found home, sitting here in my workshop, surrounded by the laughter of my children and the scent of fresh-cut wood. I often think about the 22 years I lost. 22 years of believing a lie. 22 years of mourning a daughter who was alive, growing up without knowing her father or her twin brother. Don't be like me. Don't let silence steal your truth. When Savannah told me our daughter had died, I accepted it because I trusted her. I never questioned. I never investigated. I carried that grief alone, never knowing I had the right to demand proof to seek answers. The Lord works in mysterious ways, they say, and perhaps He needed me to wait 22 years to truly appreciate the blessing of finding Raina. But I wish God, how I wish I had asked the hard questions sooner. This is one of many grandpa stories I'll share with Raina's children someday. Stories about fighting for family, about never accepting easy lies, about the strength that comes from standing up against those who would hurt the innocent. These grandpa stories teach us that evil flourishes when good people stay silent, and that God gives us the courage to act when we finally choose to see the truth. Learn from my mistakes. Question what doesn't feel right. Fight for the people you love. Trust in God's timing, but don't use faith as an excuse for inaction. These are the grandpa stories worth telling, the ones that remind us we're stronger than we think, and that family is worth every sacrifice. If this story moved you, please leave a comment below sharing what lesson resonated most. Subscribe to our channel for more true-life narratives about resilience, justice, and the power of never giving up. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to fight for what matters. Thank you for staying with me until the end. A reminder: future stories may contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If you prefer different content, please feel free to explore other options that better suit your preferences.